How's it going, everybody? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by 101 CBD. And you know they're the makers of premium raw CBD oil products such as the Chill X tincture, which helps alleviate stress and anxiety, especially nowadays with all the craziness going on. And right now, they want you to know about their Raw Relief CBD hand sanitizer that comes in a travel size roll-on, which works out great because you can put it in your pocket or in your purse and take it with you wherever you go. I like it because if I have to break quarantine, either to go to the grocery store or go to work, because I still have to go to work, it really does give me a little more peace of mind to know that when I use the hand sanitizer, I've got an extra level of antimicrobial and antiviral protection. So go over to 101cbd.org and pick up some of their Chill X blend tincture, just to make you relax and make you feel just less stressed nowadays. And you can also pick up the CBD hand sanitizer as well. And at checkout, you can save 25% on that order when you use coupon code IMGS25. Now I want to talk a little bit about Green Co digital marketing. Because if you have a cannabis brand or business, you know your digital presence is an important part of marketing today. And if you're doing it yourself, it takes a lot of time away from you focusing on building that business. That's why you need to talk to the professionals at Green Co digital marketing, because they can help optimize your website and digital presence for the highest visibility. So go to greenco.website and see how they can help you build your brand. All right, now let's start the show. Brothers and sisters, welcome back. This is the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to thank you once again for taking the time to listen to me. Now, here in a little bit, I'm going to play a conversation that I recorded with my buddy Justin Benton and attorney at law Patrick Goggin. But before that, you know what? I got to apologize for showing up so late this week. I wasn't expecting the quarantine to make it so hard to kind of strike a balance. I wasn't expecting for everybody to be home all the time, which makes it really hard to get a moment alone and find a quiet spot to record. But whatever, we're figuring it out. It's just a matter of, finding the new norm. What's the new normal? We don't know yet. I don't know yet. I think in a couple of weeks I'll know what the new normal is, or at least I'll have a better feeling of it. And I hope you're doing okay. Social distancing and all that. Now, with social distancing in mind, do me a favor, don't forget about people. It's really easy for us to get caught up in what's going on with us personally, that we forget about those other people that, they may need to be checked in on every once in a while. So when you can, just don't forget to reach out to people. Stay connected. Talk to a friend. And nowadays, technology makes it real easy, man. The phone, video conferencing, all that good stuff. So here's something I wanted to share with the group. I live in California, and because of the COVID-19 quarantine, the governor has canceled the rest of the school year, which isn't that surprising considering how panicked people are about the COVID-19. Yeah, so this quarantine's turned out to be quite a trip, man. Everybody locked inside. Get yelled at on social media if your friends see you out. I don't know, man. But as long as we stay connected, we're going to be all right. Don't forget to check in on, the older people in your world, neighbors, family members, because they all like to hear from you. They love it when you call, so you need to call them. So now I want to give a little growing advice, which I probably give out a couple of times every season, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to label all of your plants. And I say this because, so how a couple of weeks ago I had cracked some seeds? Some, what was it, the Nepalese Diesel, the Great Rift Valley, and I think it was the Afghan Durban. Yeah, the Afghan Durban. So I cracked 3 of each. And I put them all in their solo cups with some soil, labeled them all, or at least I thought I labeled them all. Then 2 days ago, I'm looking at them, as always, I'm just sitting there staring at them lovingly. And I noticed 2 of them aren't labeled. I have no idea what these 2 are. I know it's not the Great Rift Valley because I've got all 3 of those marked. So I'm going to have to wait till they get a little older because right now they only have the little rounded cotyledon leaves showing. I'm going to have to wait for them to get a little older to really know which group they belong to. You know, are they going to be part of the Nep Diesel or the other one? You know, I don't know. We'll find out. I'll let you know. Now let's do the strain of the week. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Magic Melon, which is a cross between the Mango Tree, Honeydew Melon, and the Mango Sherbert. And now if you haven't figured it out by now from the names, this bud was a nice fruity flower. And it was a sativa dominant hybrid. It came in just at about 21% THC. And this had a truly nice little fruity taste to it with a nice gassy kind of note at the end. A little fuely. It was nice. I liked it. And for having 21% THC, the high was pretty mellow, you know. It wasn't really racy, but it also wasn't really it didn't push me into the couch lock kind of state, you know, where you can't move too high. No, it was really nice, man. Nice and even. It was a great, social, chatty kind of bud. At least it was for me anyways. So yeah, man, the Magic Melon. If you see it out there, check it out. Pick some up. And then let me know what you think. Now, in my social media world, Green Flower Media is giving away their Cannabis Fundamental program for free. Yeah, you guys need to go check that out. I'm putting a link up in the show notes. Since you've got the time, you're already quarantined, you're looking for something to do, you might as well take this free course. Usually, they charge a bunch of money for it, but right now, since everyone's locked in their house, they're going to say, you know what, we're giving it to you, here you go, check it out, take the time. If you're one of those people who've been wondering, well, how do I get into the cannabis business? What do I need to do? What do I need to know? This is a good place to start. Check it out. I'm serious. Go over there, get enrolled, go through the whole program. It's really worth your time. But anyways, yeah, there's a link in the show notes for it. Okay, let's keep going. So I'm not going to do a report from the cannabis front line because I want to play the conversation that I had with my buddy Justin Benton and one of the senior attorneys at the Hoban Law Group, Patrick Goggin. You know, we had a really long conversation about things, you know, the California's Prop 65 and how they want to use, which is a Clean Water Act, and how they want to use it to regulate cannabis smoke and THC. You know, we also talked about the States Act and, you know, Mexico, you know, before the COVID emergency, they were about to legalize cannabis by the end of April, by the end of this month. And we also talked a bit more about CBD being antiviral and antimicrobial, along with a whole bunch of other things. And during that conversation, we also had to hit pause and restart it because technology kept messing with us that day. So you may hear a couple of weird edits. But other than that, like I said, it was a really awesome conversation. So hang tight. I'm going to play a little bit of music, and then I'm going to put that conversation on for you. So check it out, everybody. Once again, I've got Justin Benton with me from 101 CBD. Justin, brother, good morning, man. How you doing today?
Good morning. I couldn't be doing any better. Beautiful sunny day out here in Southern California, and a lot of hope to spread, and can't wait to talk with you again. And thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Now, with us also, we have Patrick Goggin, who is a senior attorney at the Hoban Law Group. Patrick, brother, also welcome to the show, man. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. Really, really excited to catch up. And you know, while we've got a little bit of rain going up here in San Francisco, we're welcoming it. And you know, our farmers, they need a good dousing every now and then.
Now, how are both of you guys, man? How are you guys as families? I hope everyone's, you know, healthy and safe, sane.
Mine is great. Thanks for asking. We've been sheltered in place, you know, pretty much around the same time that San Francisco did, you know, and Patrick will speak more to that, but everyone's healthy. Our parents have been sheltered in place for about 2 weeks and really sheltered in place, not really going anywhere at all. I've been making some grocery food runs, which is fun. But everyone's healthy and happy. And it seems like San Francisco and California are really, so far, looking like we're doing a pretty good job, and Patrick can speak more to that later. But how's your family doing, Patrick?
We're doing really well. I had a bug myself back in February, and I'm starting to think that, maybe I actually had gotten it at that time, COVID. I'm talking about, it was body aches and headaches and fatigue for some time, but none of the respiratory stuff. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not that. But now I'm starting to see other folks, having positive tests and never having the respiratory system. So it's a tricky thing, and it's really important that the Bay Area and the state took a lead on shelter in place. It looks like we may be flattening the curve up here, which is a good sign, notwithstanding the dearth of testing and the just horrific response from the administration. That said, we've got a lot of good leaders going out there. California, Gavin Newsom is doing a really good job, and hearts out to Como and our brothers and sisters in New York. God willing, they're going to be okay, and the resources are going to get to them, and then again around the country, places like New Orleans, Chicago, Detroit, those places really need our thoughts and our prayers right now, and we got to send them out, but at the same time, we've also we've got to stay positive here and stay healthy and keep moving things forward.
How about your family, Alex? How you guys doing?
Oh, everyone's, we're all healthy. We're all doing great, except for, the obvious things. I've got a teenage daughter who I couldn't believe is actually, was bummed that school was canceled. She's like, I can't believe they canceled school. So that was surprising. But other than that, we're doing really well.
It's good to hear that, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. If that's the only problem, then I'm doing really well, man. Hey, Justin, so real quick, brother, I know California said that cannabis companies or cannabis industry is an essential industry here. That runs also for the CBD industry. I mean, can you guys go into work? I mean, how do you keep a business open, man, during this time?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. And I'll second Patrick's remarks on Governor Newsom. He's done some really great things as far as taking the lead and being very clear and concise and very pragmatic about each step. And one of the things he did when he did go in shelter in place, and he's been doing almost daily afternoon updates, is he made a list of every single business that they could think of on the California Chamber of Commerce.org. And one of the line items in the health and medical section is cannabis dispensaries and natural supplement retail stores. So we obviously fall with the latter under the natural supplements, under the medicine and health section. So we're exempted. We're we're considered an essential business because our products obviously offer so many medicinal qualities for people in California. So thankfully for us and for our clients, we're open, and we continue to stay open. We practice all of the all the CDC guidelines, washing hands and hand sanitizing, and doing all of the right things in the retail store and on the back end as well. But and our customers have been so thankful and so grateful that we've been open. I can't tell you how many times we heard literally the words, "We don't know what we would do without your product." And so it's just been an amazing opportunity for us to step up to the community. We've been giving our CBD hand sanitizer out for free, dropped the price down to $7 if people wanted to buy a bunch. And it's just been an amazing opportunity for us to step up and serve our community and really help people out who need it right now.
Hey, Patrick, so I want to talk a little bit, or at least just get your thoughts on just the fact that cannabis was seen as essential during this coronavirus outbreak. And I'm here in California anyways, and I find it really interesting. Just, I don't know about if it's the hypocrisy or just the duality of our cannabis laws here in this country, the fact that some states that have a either medical or some kind of rec market see these industries as essential, while in other states, people are still doing some really long incarceration, some long jail time for, nonviolent cannabis offenses.
Yeah, well, there's a lot in there to unpack. I think initially I would say, as a result of what we're seeing right now and the danger of being incarcerated and being surrounded and in close quarters with so many folks. We've seen outbreaks, hot spots in the penitentiary system in New York. And so I think that there's a good chance that, as the spread occurs within these other jurisdictions, that there may be, at least maybe not a change of law on the books, but because they're nonviolent offenders, we may see some releasing going on. We've seen it happening here in California, but at the same time, this is, taking a step back, this is an example or an outcome of being a federalist system, and a system that has 50 states. The framers saw and structured the country in this way so that the states could be the laboratories for our laws and our policies. If the federal government inside the Beltway doesn't see the light on something, it's going to be the states that are pushing it. The states have California pushed medical cannabis, and throughout the states right now, you've got, because the FDA, switching to CBD for a second, the FDA is not taking action, is really slow on moving forward with regulating these products. It's up to the states to put legislation in place to protect our consumers. The FDA is standing back and saying, hey, we think we're not sure that it's safe, but we're not gonna do anything, or we're gonna start the ball rolling. But our process takes years, and in the meantime, we're just going to say it's unauthorized. Well, that's not really doing much for consumers. So the states are taking action. States like Colorado, Oregon, Kentucky, Indiana, Texas, and Florida. Those are all states that are actually ahead of California right now. California is working to address that issue. But getting back to, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but the cannabis issue as a whole in the states, it doesn't make a lot of sense that we haven't seen action at the federal level. And it's really because we've got all this other craziness going on that we just can't get this on their bandwidth and having them seriously address it. We've got various forms of legislation out there, but in this time right now, I wouldn't expect a lot of movement. That said, I do think that given what we're going through with COVID, we are going to see some serious change, and change that we don't necessarily know about or are aware of is coming. And so that does provide a little bit of hope for some movement on policy and change at the federal level on cannabis. But these states that have these harsh penalties, really, those are vestiges of the war on drugs, and those states are really only going to change their policies when the federal government does.
Speaking of each state, because it sounds like each state's just going to have to go it alone, and we're all going to drag the federal government with us, and which brings me to what the actual States Act is. From the sounds of it, it's just that. It's every state that has some kind of cannabis market, we're each going to just make up our own laws and, hopefully be able to do interstate commerce with it.
Well, that's effectively what it would do, potentially. I don't know if it would be necessarily unfettered. It wouldn't be unfettered interstate commerce, because you have other states that don't allow for it. So maybe there'd be interstate commerce between abutting states that are adjacent to each other that have both liberalized their policies. But essentially, you're right. It looks to the states and gives discretion to the states and defers to the states on how they're going to address it, which is in part what we've got going right now. And really, I mean, you've got a majority of the states that have passed liberalized policies on all things cannabis, from medical to adult use to industrial hemp, and those states are, as long as they're regulating it in a good way, and they're keeping so as to keep it out of the hands of the youth and organized crime and off public lands. Public lands are a serious problem, but if those issues are being addressed at the state level. The feds are staying out of the way, and we haven't, under Trump, we have really not seen much in the way of enforcement, contrary to the state policies.
Yeah, luckily, he's kind of stayed out of the way, except for making some remarks. But which is a good thing. All I need the government to do really is just to deschedule and get out of the way, really. Which brings me to one point about California and Proposition 65, which is a Clean Water Act, but they're going to use Prop 65 to, to put in some regulations about THC smoke.
Proposition 65 was put in place by the voters of California to protect them from carcinogenic substances in water and in things that they're consuming, as well as things that cause reproductive toxicity. It's been in place for a while. And it's done two things with regards to cannabis. It's listed cannabis smoke some time ago. I think it was 2009 or something like that, give or take. But there's been also a recent listing for THC specifically, and that was done in January. And that is on, it's not saying that it's necessarily carcinogenic, but that it's causes reproductive toxicity. And that's a real issue in a lot of respects, in particular for hemp, because hemp products have trace amounts of THC in it. And the way Prop 65 is structured is that chemicals that are on the list, they can also have what are called a safe harbor. And that is a safe daily amount that is deemed to, or a daily amount that's deemed to be safe for human consumption and not cause any of these problems. So right now, for example, we've got a year from the date of the listing of THC on the Prop 65 list, because enforcement has stayed right now, to get to a safe harbor. And that's going to be really important. Otherwise, all those hemp products out there, we're going to start seeing that Prop 65 warning label on.
So do we know what the safe harbor limit is, what we're trying to put in as far as what's a safe amount?
No, we don't really. I think that it's not going to be this incredibly small amount. It's going to be in the milligrams per day, but it could be on the smaller side, but it's not going to be, I don't think, in the minuscule side of things. But ultimately, it's up to the industry to go and create that. The government's not going to go and do that. So
how
the industry is going to have to come together and work. It's not going to be hard. I've talked to some toxicologists out there, and they can do it for 10, 20 grand. So we've got some time here. It's doable, but we've got to take action in the private side. The government right now isn't going to do anything, and it's got plenty of things on its hands and things on the table right now to deal with.
So, and if they wanted to reach out, and obviously I'm a part of California Hemp Council. Patrick is general counsel for California Hemp Council. If you want to be a part of it, helping us get that study done from the CBD side or the hemp side, reach out to California Hemp Council, myself or Patrick, and we'd be more than happy to discuss bringing you on board and helping us raise some money to get that study done. If you're hearing this and you're on the cannabis side of things, still reach out to Patrick or myself or whoever, because it's all the same plant, and we all need to make sure that we're defending the best interests of the plant instead of letting big government or some oversight that doesn't really understand the plant as well as we do.
I would add on the cannabis side of things that, that space is really, it's not too concerned about it from a marketing or branding perspective, because those are already on their labels. They've already, the smoke listing has been there for a while. So I'd say the biggest concern is on the hemp side right now. Everybody knows that cannabis has the THC and the smoke is, probably not the best thing for you. But why did they establish it for something potential that's going to potentially be applied and be required on these products that are nothing more than really good stuff for your body?
Well, and plus, when I read it, it creates, in my mind, just the layperson's mind, it created this slippery slope, because it seems like once they put that kind of label on, let's say, hemp products with some THC in it, I mean, it seems like it would make doctors even less wanting to recommend these products for, let's say, pregnant women who they can't prescribe regular anti-nausea or anti-emetic medicine to. It seems like it would really just, make them hesitant even more to recommend these hemp products for that.
Well, I think yes and no. I mean, look, as far as cannabis goes, it's been a recommendation process, not a prescription process.
Right.
And what I would think is that they would avoid smoke, and they would look more towards some sort of ingestion and lower levels of THC. I mean, it is THC that does help with the anti-nausea and whatnot. But they might, given that they're pregnant, they might work with a little bit of THC, which could come from a hemp product, and combine it with other anti-nausea products. I would see Prop 65 a little bit differently than you're viewing it. It's a guidepost, and it's a warning system that says, hey, look, we believe in higher doses that this could cause issues. They're not saying it does or will. It says it may, and there's indications through studies that it has caused these issues. So more than anything, it's really causing folks to just be cautious and be mindful and proceed intelligently, and talk to your doctor about it, and talk to alternative practitioners about these things. There's Chinese medicine doctors, there's naturopaths out there. I guess in California they operate in the chiropractic world. There are herbologists out there. There's a lot of folks out there other than MDs to talk to and get sound information. I mean, right now, I'm going to digress a little bit, but it's relevant and it's important, because earlier we were talking about the FDA and CBD and not enough safety studies. And, in part that may be right, that there isn't quite enough safety data out there for them to get this really firm conclusion on, what levels are safe. But the fact that there aren't, the assertion that there aren't studies out there is just bald-faced lying. There are a number of studies out there, Justin can speak to them, that talk about the safety of CBD. The World Health Organization put out a 27-page report on it. It too said that more studies could be done, but the studies that are there are indicating that it works and that it's relatively safe in reasonable doses. So, it's the difference between sticking your head in the sand and saying we're not going to regulate it, or saying, look, it could cause some problems at these higher levels, but we're not here to say that at lower levels it can't be safe and good and healthy for you, and work on your various aspects of your well-being, including your immunity system.
And that's that safe harbor number that you were talking about that'd be best to find.
That's right. Defining it by working with and having it be produced by the people in the know, the people who are trained to come up with these conclusions, the toxicologists. It's right. Like right now, we want to hear from the toxicologists. We want to hear from the immunologists. We want to hear from the epidemiologists. We don't want to hear from some policy wonk in DC. We want to hear from the people who are trained, who have PhDs, and who have the information and who conduct the experiments and the studies to get to sound facts, not pie in the sky hyperbole.
So let me ask you something different about Prop 65, because under it also they're placing THC as a they're placing cannabis smoke as a carcinogen. So now how does that affect this hope of us getting these cannabis consumption lounges? Does that, how does that affect that dream of us actually getting consumption lounges the way alcohol have bars?
Yeah. Well, okay. So what I was saying was that you go into these places with your eyes wide open, and you potentially have the warnings out there, and you understand that there could be some exposure. But the way to mitigate that is through really good HVAC systems and filter systems. These things have been in place for a long time in San Francisco, and they're important. And here's why they're important: because it offers an opportunity for many folks who tend to be isolated or in public housing to to have a communal experience, which cannabis is and often is, and they can do it in a safe way. But they do it in a safe way for the community and for themselves, and they do it in an environment that has been constructed in a way that's going to mitigate that exposure.
Okay, so hopefully, we take that into account when people in your city council are voting whether to open that consumption lounge near you. Speaking of which,
yeah. I mean, and that's the way the system in California works. It's a from the ground up system that delegates, just like the federalist system, it delegates the authority to the local jurisdictions for the most part. There's certain things that they can't which is, the personal, consumption and growing of plants or what have you. But they can control the access. And that creates an actual competitive environment between jurisdictions, where you'll have certain jurisdictions that just say, we're not going to go there, and it creates an opportunity for nearby jurisdictions to say we are, and we're going to provide this for both our citizens within our community and other communities as well. So that's there are some silver linings there, and if it might not be good for one, then it'll be good for the other.
So how do we, voters at large, get involved with changing the wording for Prop 65, or at least how cannabis and hemp products are labeled under that?
Well, really, the way to lobby on that from the voters' perspective is to reach out to folks that are working in Sacramento, like the California Hemp Council, or other cannabis-based organizations that are doing good policy work up there, like CCIA or NORML or Drug Policy Alliance and so forth. But they've got to reach out to their legislators and communicate with the legislators. That's the number one advocacy approach and action is to speak out and speak up to your assembly member or your senator at the state level and House member or senator at the federal level. That's what they're there for. And I worked in a congressional office when I was in college during a semester, and all I did was respond to constituent letters and concerns. That's what they're there for. So reach out and have your voice heard.
Yeah, stay involved, everybody, for sure. Hey, Patrick, I want to change a little bit. I want to ask you about Mexico, because before COVID-19 shut the world down, Mexico was...
Apparently it hasn't shut Mexico down yet.
Well, I mean, but they were supposed to vote or have a decision or have, their cannabis legislation in place, or at least the framework for it, by the end of April. But it sounds like all those votes and decisions have been put on hold until after the COVID emergency. But yeah, they were on their way of completely developing their hemp and cannabis market. And I'm wondering, I mean, how does that, as you see it, how does that pressure America's drug policy and our own just hemp market ourselves?
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I think it's really interesting the way Mexico has evolved on this issue. The genesis comes from a Supreme Court ruling that held that the restrictions on cannabis were unconstitutional because the allegation or the concerns expressed over the impact in society were overblown. It's a really phenomenal action that the Supreme Court took that I could never see our Supreme Court taking. Let's just put it that way. Our Supreme Court is so far to the right now. I mean, I could see it potentially doing it on a kind of from a states' rights perspective, but certainly not on, some sort of constitutional individual right and overreach by the federal government. But what Mexico is going through, and we at Hoban actually have a specialist, and maybe, I can connect you with him at some point, and you can do some follow-up from somebody who's on the ground in Mexico City, who's a lawyer, who's tracking this really closely and can really explain, where they're at in the legislative process and whatnot. But at a high level, my understanding of things is that, while cannabis is moving forward at the medical and potentially recreational level they're not making strong distinctions to create a vibrant hemp industry down there. And that would be one of my concerns. Whereas in the United States, like them or not, or like them or not, Senator McConnell and President Trump were responsible for re-legalizing the growth of industrial hemp in this country. So we're much further advanced on hemp policy than Mexico. But when it comes to medical and to adult use, I mean, Canada has legalized it as well. So we're like this non-legalized patty right in the middle of legalized funds. And one would think that those policy changes would influence things in the United States and at the federal level. But our especially when it's a time of a Republican administration like we have, they don't care what other people do. They have their own vision of reality, and when it comes to this administration, all bets are off on what they'll do. And a lot of people have opined that come October or September or October that he could do this big October surprise and fully legalize, because he thinks that could be something that he needs to get him over the top. I highly doubt that with the developments of COVID that he would think that that's something that could actually push him over the top. But you never know. You never know.
Yeah, it's a possible move. But let me take you back a bit. Why are those distinctions so important between hemp and cannabis? I mean, it seems like Mexico, since they were about, I don't know, they were just going to legalize it across the board without those distinctions, without those really rigid distinctions, I should say.
Here's why I think the distinction is important, and really we have to look at it as high THC, low THC varieties. And when you're talking about high THC varieties, you're talking about something that has a real impact on somebody's perception of, and it's, it really needs to be treated more like something that is altering people's, it's psychoactive, and people can get into trouble out there if they're not cautious. So you need to put some guardrails on it for the purposes of protecting society.
Okay, right, I got it.
When it comes to hemp, it's an agricultural product and crop, and we need to treat it like that. And we don't need to have the same regulations and guardrails on it that we're applying to something that has the high THC varieties.
Right, I got it now. Okay. So now I want to take you also back to that, what you just said about, the U.S. being in the middle of Canada and Mexico, who are about to have, or, Canada does have already a federal program for cannabis and hemp, and Mexico's, a higher population than Canada, I believe. And both of them are going to have this federal legalized system. And, America's still kind of dragging its feet. Most states, most municipalities. I know here in California, you can't really grow hemp, as far as I understand it, unless you're affiliated with some kind of research program.
That's no longer the case. We, under our Department of, under our Food and Ag Code, and the jurisdiction is the program. We have a registration program for farming hemp. It's run by the county commissioners, and it doesn't need to be tied to university research. There is a requirement that it be tied to research, but it can be part of a pilot program that's been established by a State Department of Agriculture, and we've got that in place in the state. The fact that the department is maintaining data from the hemp that's being grown, the acreage that's being grown, it's deemed to be a pilot program, and collecting data for research. We've got a lot of studies going on around the state, but make no mistake, hemp is here. It's here for our farmers, and last year it was here to the tune of about 30,000 acres.
There needs to be more, though. 30,000 acres seems kind of small for California.
Well, but you gotta. Here's the thing: is that you want the evolution and the growth and the expansion of hemp farming to go at a gradual pace, because one of the challenges we have is that we don't have enough processing capacity to take those. To take the fiber, or to take the flowers, or to take the seeds. They all require different types of processing. And right now, in particular, the focus is on the flowers and hemp extracts for high CBD production, extracts and so forth. And right now, our state, because of various things, and we can actually, I think it might be a good thing to get into, the state does not yet regulate hemp manufacturing. And so there's a dearth of processing. There's processing out there, but it's being done in an under-regulated space. So we don't have a lot of those guardrails in place to make sure that it's being done in a really safe way.
So there's no uniform regulation for processing hemp. Everyone's
not for not at the state level for the manufacturing of that, which we were working on. And so last year we had a bill that would have done a few things. It would have said CBD is not an adulterant, which is what CDPH is saying that right now, our Department of Public Health, which is an extension of the FDA in the state under the Sherman Act. But so it's not an adulterant, and so long as it is manufactured in a food manufacturing facility licensed and regulated by our Department of Public Health. But here's the problem. And we tried to do too much with our legislation last year. We tried to have our cake and eat it too. We tried to do that, not an adulterant, regulated by CDPH, but we also tried to get hemp products, create an exit and a pathway for those into the retail cannabis market. And the cannabis folks in certain sectors came a little bit unglued, and it's understandable. They're a highly regulated market right now. The margins are getting smaller, and there's a ton of testing, where there's a lot of testing required, or a high level panel with a lot of components of testing for chemicals. And they said, we want hemp tested the same way cannabis is tested. And we pushed back on that and said, look, the Sherman Act protects the consumers. It requires testing, but we're not going to treat it like cannabis. It's an agricultural product. There's a reason why cannabis is treated the way it's treated, and that is because it's not legal federally. So they had to create their own system for testing and so forth. So we fought back, but what happened was they did their lobbying. They were effective at what they were doing while we were effective in pushing the legislation. It got to August. We didn't have a single vote against our legislation. It ended up getting shelved over those concerns. Fast forward to now, during the off session, we worked, the hemp industry and the cannabis space worked together to craft solutions so that hemp could enter the cannabis market under a revised bill, and that the hemp will actually be tested for all these different chemicals, which is at the end of the day a good thing for consumers to know what's in their products. But the hemp side is going to be tested separately, and anything that goes into the cannabis market will be tested through that system. But our system will be the hemp system will be separate and apart from it. Where we're at right now is anybody's guess because of the COVID situation. We were on track to have this legislation moving and past this summer, and it may still get there, but we just don't know when the legislature is going to come back into session. It looks like May at the earliest, who knows exactly, but we're going to get there, and it's a really good thing for your listeners and our consumers, because by the end of this year, our Department of Public Health is going to be regulating the production of hemp space and the dietary supplement space, and that is going to lead to the opening up of and allow for greater production in the state, because you're going to have more manufacturing.
Yeah, let me ask you about that as far as the FDA itself allowing CBD into food products. I know they're still, the FDA itself, the federal government, I think they're still taking public comment.
They've opened it back up, yeah.
What's this? But it sounds like California is just moving forward with just allowing it in California as far as like certain food products allowing CBD into.
Well, and it's because, so the FDA has indicated that they understand there's a mandate to create pathways for these products in the natural product sphere, but because their processes are so slow, they're not going to get there for a year or two more. So as I said earlier, it's up to the states to act, in their stead and to protect consumers as the FDA is trying to catch up to an industry that has exploded. And the states have to, because the train has left the station. It's not going back. And the FDA recognizes that it's a fool's errand to try to put it back in a box, and that they've got to act. And so it's up to the states who've done it. And we've got a lot of states that have led by example, starting with Colorado and Oregon and a number of other states that have passed legislation that requires the departments of public health in those states to regulate these products and require certain labeling on the products and a QR code. The trend is a QR code that links to a certificate of analysis that shows exactly what is in the product when it comes to the different cannabinoids, confirming that the THC is significantly low, how much CBD is in there, and then what are the chemicals that are in there? Because that's what people want to know, right? Is it going to be effective, and is it going to be safe? And that's why California needs to act. And there's no time to waste here.
So where is California now as far as allowing CBD in food products?
Its position that it's unauthorized, and it's a continued regurgitation of the FDA position. But it's one that we take issue with. We believe that it's lawful, authorized, and it's safe. These products have been, and both hemp and its cannabinoids have been in our food supply for millennia. From the Chinese, the Native Americans, and our early American settlers. They were growing it, they were eating it, and they were producing tinctures for medicine. And for the FDA to say that they don't understand the safety, and that they don't understand the historical use, it's because they're sticking their head in the sand. It's because they don't want to do the work. They want to, look, I don't want to say that they don't want to do the work, but in my opinion, it's the easier thing to say. Look, we in the hemp space, we rolled up our sleeves in the 90s, and we said, hey, we need to change our laws. We didn't sit back and tell people that were wanting change that it couldn't be done and that it was too hard. No, we said, no, we're going to do it, and we don't care how long it's going to take. We're going to get there. 20 years later, we got there. The FDA can do the same thing, and they can open up their eyes, and they can stop looking so much at the Epidiolex rat studies that pump these rats full of CBD isolate until their eyes bulged, and use that as a justification for saying that it's unsafe. Well, yeah, if we inject our bodies full of a toxic amount of a substance, yeah, it's going to be unsafe.
Well, even water and milk have an LD50 if you put enough of it in anybody.
Yeah, water, milk, orange juice, it doesn't matter. Yeah, too much of anything's, a bad thing. So then, Patrick, let's say I'm really ambitious and I'm a prophet of CBD. Could I just, release a food product with CBD in it and just take my chances with the government? I mean, would the government stop me? What exactly would happen?
Well, the devil's in the details of what you're doing and how you're doing it. As Justin well knows, and I'm kind of preaching all the time, it's about the labeling and how you're presenting the product and how you're producing the product. So from the production side, you want to make sure that it's being produced with current good manufacturing practices, which are required by the FDA. So it's clean, sterile environment, safe product in its production, number one. Number two is the labeling and following FDA guidance, making sure that you're labeling properly, and at the end of the day, not making health disease claims. Those three things combined, if you're doing that, you're going to stay out of the way from the regulators' wrath. Because what they're targeting right now, and what they've been targeting, are and their enforcement is fairly limited. But those who've been targeted are folks that are making these claims. They're not doing good label. They're not following FDA guidance on labeling, and they're not producing safe product. So it's all about how you go about it. And there's a market out there, and if you're doing it in a proper, good, healthy, clean, sanitized way, then there's opportunity out there for you. and depending on how, there are limitations in the marketplace. For example, as a result of our the CDPH's position on CBD, you've got a lot of products pulled from retail in the Los Angeles County area, and other areas in the state, and in large part, I think Orange County and San Diego have been challenging. But there's certainly space to maneuver. There's a lot of online capacity, and I believe Justin can speak to the numbers out there, but if we haven't hit $1 billion a year for hemp extract products in the country, we're going to hit it soon.
So on that, I want to bring you, Justin, into that topic, mostly because I want to talk about the hand sanitizer that you have and the antimicrobial properties of CBD, right? While no one's making any claims as far as a specific, like it's going to kill, at least no one here is today, that CBD is good to kill specifically coronavirus. It is good to have as part of your regimen to, just disinfect.
Absolutely.
Well,
and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the studies have already been done. Not nearly as many as we're going to have, but there's plenty of studies out there. If you go to pubmed.gov and literally type in CBD, or in our case, CBDA, and, antiviral, and that's all you type in, you're going to come up with, 25 to 30 published research articles and studies that have shown, with viruses like hepatitis C, which the current medical community hasn't really figured out how to damper down, that there are studies that show that CBD has actually, encapsulated or, stopped the spread of hepatitis C. There's a lot of research on HIV, and there's some CBD studies on HIV, and we published a couple ourselves. And again, the research is out there. Now, is there research showing that CBD as an antiviral will affect and kill, and is the solution to this crazy mess that we're in with COVID? No, of course not, because there hasn't been enough time. But again, doing things like washing your hands with hot soapy water is antiviral, because it encapsulates and washes the virus off of your hands, and that soap has an oily residue, just like our hand sanitizers do, that keeps on your hands, which doesn't allow the virus to spread. Whereas when you use those alcohol-based Purells that everyone's racing for, it actually dries your hands out and allows you to be more susceptible to germs. So, and the CDC is very good about these things. So the hand wash, they're not out there saying, everyone go get Purell. They're saying, wash your hands, don't touch your face, social distancing. And so there's a lot of really good research out there. You can check our website out. You can go to pubmed.gov and use common sense to get through all this. And there's a lot of good information out there of how to do that. And we have a hand sanitizer, a couple of different mediums. One's a roll-on, one's a squirt, and we're coming out with a spray one as well that you just carry around in your pocket. And, basically, I know we're all, anything we touch now, including money and everything, we're sanitizing our hands, or if we don't have like a hot soap in sink right next to us. So, but yeah, I mean, and if you want to go a little bit further, I've seen a lot of people, some research coming out now that the germs can be on your feet. So if you do go out to the grocery store, leave your shoes out front. So people will take it a step further. When you get home, throw your clothes in the washer and then take a shower. It's just however far you want to go. If you're one of, I mean, we all had germaphobes before this. Now we're all germaphobes. So the original germaphobes before this are probably going, all the way. But
they're probably wearing T-shirts. They're probably wearing T-shirts that said "I told you so."
Exactly. Or they're like, "This is not a change to my life. I was already doing this."
Hey, Justin, I have a comment kind of wrapped in a question, and that is, I see these products as different products as working together and complementary. Because on the one hand, you've got, the Purell product that is, going in and, as my son liked to say, it goes in and kills all the bacteria. It kills everything. So you're losing, these beneficial things. And it's really, as Justin pointed out, it's drying out the hands. So my question is, let's say we use a Purell and it's drying us out, and a little bit later we go and we put some 101 hemp roll-on, squirt, spray, cleanser, moisturizer, what have you, whatever we're going to call it, hand sanitizer. Is that gonna bring back some of those beneficial bacteria, or at least prime the pump for getting those back?
Absolutely. Again, all of our products all of our topicals have many antiviral, properties. The essential oils, the lavender, the eucalyptus oils, the menthol. There are many antiviral things that we already have in. And one of the things about the Purell, and I'm not here to knock Purell, and I
think they can go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going
to
say.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
But there's a couple side effects. So yes, number one is always washing hands. Washing hands. If you don't, I would recommend using, something that is homeopathic like ours, or you can make your own at home. I mean, literally, vinegar and lemon is antiviral. But in that instance, the other bad thing about the alcohol-based things is that it does create, how it says 99.9? Well, it eliminates all the weaker germs, and it creates these superbugs. And we've heard about these superbugs in staph infections at hospitals. And even my wife got a false negative on one of our first children was born, which made a hot mess, and it wasn't even accurate. And so it creates these superbugs, which, once again, go to PubMed.gov and type in staph infection CBD, and you'll see the research that CBD is one of the only things on planet Earth that has been shown to kill those superbugs. So again, you got to do the best you can. You got to use common sense, and I don't want to take away everybody's they feel safe in their little box that I have my Purell, so I'm safe. It's an option. It's not a bad thing to have on you or use at home, but if you can, wash your hands, or also use homeopathic things that come from Mother Earth would be my advice. And again, ours are going to keep your hands moist and oily, so the virus can't spread per se, or get into the pores of your hands if they're dried out.
Yeah, and
are there any probiotic properties in hemp?
Well,
absolutely.
I know hemp seed oil is really good for the skin because it's a lot closer. It really is a lot similar to the kind of fats that the body makes on the skin. So yeah, for topical, I love using hemp seed oil. Put it in my oatmeal, and I'll put it all over myself.
All of our products. I mean, that's our carrier oil for our tinctures, and it's in all of our topicals as well. Hemp seed oil is the closest thing to breast milk on the planet, and it does have the perfect ratio of omega-3s and 6s, the fatty acids. In fact, the hemp protein powder I use every morning, organic, and squirt some of my CBD in there, is the best protein powder you can use on planet Earth.
Wait, hemp seed oil is
amino acids.
Hemp seed oil is close to breast milk, and the fat content
we can find on Earth.
Right.
But in terms of essential fatty acids.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a nutty flavor. It's not going to taste like, but yeah, it's.
I was getting into
we're getting off topic, gentlemen.
Protein.
Yeah. So, but yeah, again, this plant, as we've known, and Alex and I have joked about in the past, is that we call it the green buffalo.
It's the green buffalo, man.
Because you can use everything of it, and it does so many things for us. And so whenever you have an opportunity to, whether it's your diet or it's your supplements or it's your house or your shirt or your paper or your batteries, it's just an amazingly the most versatile plant on planet Earth. And this would be another instance where hemp and its cannabinoids and all of its properties is going to help us out again in this virus craze that we're in.
Patrick, is there anything that I missed that you'd want to mention?
Well, yeah, actually, there's a piece that I just wanted to address really quickly, which we haven't talked too much about, and that is transitioning from the 2014 Farm Bill and the research amendment that we talked about earlier, that we kind of need to be at this research level in terms of our hemp production. By virtue of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp was completely removed from the Controlled Substances Act for all purposes, all reasons, for all time, which is just an amazing thing. But until state plans are approved by the USDA, we remain under the 2014 Farm Bill. And the states have a really hard time right now because they are not totally clear on what the federal rules are. In last November, the USDA issued what's referred to as the interim final rule, and they proposed these regulations for hemp production under the new Farm Bill, but there were all kinds of limitations and challenges and problems with it. Number one, which was the biggest issue, was the requirement that all labs that are testing for THC quantity of these of the hemp grown had to be done by performed by a DEA registered lab. Well, there are hardly any DEA registered labs around the country. I mean, we can count them. They're probably less than 50. So that creates a real problem and bottleneck and just throws a big monkey wrench into hemp production, because it has that test and those test results have to come back within a pretty, swift, efficient period of time. So, what I just want to get out there for people to know is that we're going to remain under the 2014 Farm Bill for some time through the 2020 season, perhaps even into the 2021 season, to allow for the regulations to get settled and for there to be clarity on what's coming. So really, it's characterized as a work in progress and a fluid situation, which is really not unlike what we're dealing with in Sacramento when we're talking about pushing our CBD and hemp policy, and our governments right now and having to deal with the COVID environment. So there's a lot of parallels here, and it's I think a good time for folks to recognize that we need to have patience, we need to keep our feet on the ground, we need to stay calm, and we need to let things evolve. But know that there are many, many folks out there, like Justin and me and Alex, that are working to educate and advocate and move things. This is not a time for hibernation. This is a time for creativity, for productivity, and to get shit done. And we are going to continue to do that. And we're not going to be defeated by the COVID virus. We're going to be empowered, and we're going to work to protect our brothers and sisters and our neighbors at the same time that we're going to work to advance our policy. And we're going to see it, and we're going to continue to see it, and it's going to get better and better.
Hey, Patrick,
that's great. I was just going to say, I wanted to second that, and the hope that this industry and the opportunity that this cannabis and CBD and hemp industry have to lead the charge in getting this economy back on its feet and helping and protecting our communities, who need it the most, whether it's the immune systems or the keeping ourselves clean and sanitized. I really look forward to the innovation. And if you track the stock market and if you understand, we're going to bounce back. We're going to have a hell of a run. And I don't care about the stock market necessarily. I care about everyday Americans, and I care about, everybody that's out there, pulling and moving the train. So this is an opportunity for you if you're kind of on the fence and you're thinking about getting into the industry, or it's something that lights you up. I encourage everybody. There is a really great opportunity for us to innovate. We weren't making hand sanitizers 2 months ago, and there's they had hand sanitizing properties, but I know there's other dispensaries, I think in Massachusetts, that are shifting their facilities. Again, we're all pivoting to this moment in time to see how we can, as the governor says here, meet the moment and step up. And I know there's people like Elon Musk, who's making 1,000 of the ventilators and things like that. So this industry it's a wonderful industry. It's altruistic. If people are here for the right reasons, so many of us. And I can't wait to see how we respond, overcome, and thrive. And I just wanted to, like I said, second those remarks by Patrick.
Yeah, for sure, everybody. Stay involved in every aspect of it. So, Patrick, do me a favor. How can people find you? How can people find the Hoban Group?
Yeah, so Hoban, you can find Hoban at Hoban, HOBAN.law. You can reach me at patrick@hoban.law, and you get to me by doing that, and to Hoban by doing that, but you also get to the California Hemp Council, and please reach out. I'd love to connect with folks that are considering certain business ventures or just interested in understanding what's going on with our policy and the laws and how they can participate civically. So please reach out.
And I would also add in there that Patrick does all of the work for us to help with our labels and make sure we're doing all the things that we talked about. So if you're in the industry and don't quite know what my label should look like or what my website should look like, or can I say this or can I do that, there is nobody better on planet Earth, than Patrick to reach out to, and he'll help you as he's helped us for many years. So little plug there for you, Patrick, but you are the best.
I didn't pay Justin to say that.
Not at all. But it's the truth. It's the truth.
Oh, don't worry about it. All right, Justin, one more time. How can people find 101 CBD, buddy?
Well, I think this is my 6th time, so I'm waiting for my smoking jacket like SNL. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows about us at 101cbd.org. Info is a good one. Info at 101cbd.org, 805-642-5623. Go to the website. Swing by one of our locations in Ventura, Ohio. We did open one up in Denver. And from our 7th talk, it's inevitable, I want us to talk about doing some growing in our backyard, especially with the CBD hemp variety plant. So one of these days, I want to just rap about your expertise, Alex, and and what you've helped me with doing some things and some grows, and you're an expert at your trade. So I really would love to just kind of rap some more about that. Maybe some different varietals that you can grow in your backyard and throw it in your shake, eat it with your salad, do whatever you want to do with this beautiful cannabis plant on the high CBD strains. And one last shout out to you, Alex. I noticed you went on you're on the Apple World. You made it, and it looks beautiful and great, the podcast, and hats off to you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm really grateful that we were able to make that happen, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I just want to say, just to add into what Justin's saying, is it's right now what's making a real comeback are victory gardens in everybody's backyard. So that's an important subject, and hey, invite me on and I'll riff on that as well.
No, it's
Let's
true.
I'd love to talk about it.
Everybody needs to grow and if you're not familiar what a victory garden is, back in World War II, the president came out and said, look, everybody needs to start growing their own vegetables. Plus, it really does help with that anxiety of thinking you don't have enough food for your family. People are flipping out, man. Just garden a little bit. Just a couple, start small. A couple of herbs in a pot, some carrots, anything. But plus, it's real therapeutic.
And in turn, you're contributing to helping our bee population, which has, as we all know, has been struggling. I look back in my garden, and I just am so grateful to provide and happy to be providing some nice flowering spaces for our bees and our hummingbirds. There's a lot of life out there, and we can contribute to helping to bring back those pollinators.
And what we've seen with hemp is that I think it was over 200 different species of bees came out. It was the highest diversity of these through hemp. And so another reason to grow that high CBD cannabis in the backyard too. And for those of you that like the THC variety, have a little CBD over here and a little THC over there. And it's one of my favorite things to do is grow cannabis. It's a really good distressor, and it's getting your hands in the soil and the eon, just getting in there and having something to do. It's a real calming, therapeutic thing as well. So get out there and get your backyard gardens growing. And there's nobody better that I've met than Alex to help you get that going.
Just make sure if you're going to do both hemp and cannabis, don't lose the labels, because you're not going to be able to tell them apart.
Yeah.
And
then you could also do right down the middle with a ratio that's 1-to-1.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, man. All right, gentlemen, do me a favor. Do not hang up. Everybody else, I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I will be right back. Yes, brothers and sisters, that was Patrick Goggin. I really do appreciate him taking the time to come on the show and answer some of my questions, and really just to give me his thoughts on some things also, man. He was really generous with his time. And once again, I want to thank my buddy Justin Benton for coming on the show and actually for setting that up, because he was kind of the go-between for that conversation to get Patrick on the show. I really do appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much. I always love talking to Justin, man. He's a lot of fun to talk to. As always, if you have a question or a comment about this episode, you can send an email that is inmygrow@gmail.com, or reach out to us on most of the social media platforms. That is at inmygrowshow. Instagram, Twitter, Cannabis, what else? Whatever else is out there that we're on. Well, mis amigos, my friends, that's all I've got for you today, man. That's all I have to share with you today. And just a reminder, everybody, if this show has given you value, if it's educated you, entertained you, or even given you a little escape from your day, go over to patreon.com/inmygrow and leave a financial donation. Or you can go over to the website, inmygrow.com, click on the Support the Show tab, buy a t-shirt. And an even easier way to help the show financially, before you go shopping on Amazon, click on the Amazon link at the top of the show notes of this episode, because that'll let them know that we sent you, and the show gets a commission, and it doesn't cost you anything. Now, I know times are tough right now, and, there's a whole bunch of uncertainty out there. If you can't afford to help the show financially, don't worry about it, man. I get it. Here's how you can help, though. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to it. Subscribe to the website, inmygrow.com. Go over to YouTube, search for In My Grow Show with Alex, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then after you do all that subscribing, do one more thing. Just tell 3 other people about the show. That's it. Really simple, really easy. Now, if you are a cannabis company that wants to advertise to our worldwide audience, kind of let them know that you're still out there during this quarantine and that you're still thinking of them, go ahead and send an email to inmygrow@gmail.com, and we will absolutely help you get your message out. Well, hermanos y hermanas, or brothers and sisters, like I said, that's all I've got to share with you today. Don't forget that I love you very much. I appreciate all of you listening. And you know what? If you really want to make contact with the show, go ahead and give us a call. That's 805-633-0639. And, just leave your message, leave a thought, leave a question, leave an idea for a podcast show. Any of those things. All right, buddy. Like I said, I'm going to get on out of here. I will see you in a couple of days. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.